Hi everyone, and welcome to May's Dog Book Club. This month we read Tomorrow by Damien Dibben, a story about an immortal dog who is in search of his lost master for over 200 years. Throughout his search, he befriends animals and humans, falls in love, marvels at the human ability to make music, and despairs at their capacity for war. This is the first novel that we've read in the book club so far, and to be honest, it was really nice and refreshing with everything that's going on in the world. It was nice just to take a step back and read something different. There are some really fun and interesting questions that the author has at the end of this book that I wanted to talk about in this video, so grab a cup of something warm and let's get started. If you clicked on this video randomly and you have no idea what the dog book club is, I'm gonna link a video here so you can have an idea of what it is. Basically, every single month on my channel, we read a dog related book and then we talk about it. You don't have to read them in the month that we're actually talking about it. You can go back and you can take as long as you want with each of these books. The videos are always gonna be there. There's a whole playlist for it. I've got my Tim Hortons cup. Any Canadian will know this and love it. If you're like me and you love dogs and you love history, then this book is totally your cup of tea. You get to see a lot of really cool European locations and also some real historical moments that actually happened. And you get to see it all through the lens of a dog. It jumps back and forth between 1688 and 1815, so you actually do get to see quite a bit. The author writes this whole book from a dog's perspective, which I thought was actually really interesting, so everything is very scent forward. So anytime that the dog Tomorrow is in a new situation, it's always the scent that he notices first, which is something that we as humans tend to kind of not notice, but it's actually so important for us to understand our surroundings. Typically, we only really notice scent if it's like really bad or really good, so I actually really liked this kind of perspective. It just kind of made it easy to understand exactly what was going on in the book and through Tomorrow's perspective of the events. He also made Tomorrow really smart, even in comparison to any of the other dogs in the book, which at first I thought maybe he was anthropomorphizing a little bit too much, but then I realized it was an active choice that he was making. So he wanted to insinuate that because Tomorrow had been alive for over 200 years, he had so much more wisdom than the other dogs that were in the book. Do you guys think that's true, or do you think he maybe made a mistake by making Tomorrow a little bit too smart for a dog? I like to believe it's the first option. Also, I love the dog named Tomorrow. I think it's so unique and it's definitely going on my list of really cool dog names. The book was pretty short, only 308 pages, and to be honest, I like that. It's very much a summer read. You can blaze through it pretty fast and it was just fun. I also think that it read very much like a Disney movie, and I don't mean like the kind of Disney movie that's meant for really young kids, but the kind that's more meant for young adults where there are some serious topics discussed, but everything is like bright and vibrant and all of the characters are so clear in their intentions, like that kind of Disney movie. And when I looked up the author, it made complete sense because he's also a screenwriter, so he was writing the book from it, like he was seeing all of the things happening in that kind of way, and it totally comes through when you're reading it. Everything is vibrant and visceral and really easy to understand and to see in your mind. And for that reason, I think that this book is good for adults, but it can also be really good for teenagers and young adults as well, because it does deal with some serious issues, but it's done in a way that makes it easy to understand. Definitely not something that you'd read to your kids as a bedtime story because there's some stuff in it, but I think it is really good for teenagers and young adults if you have one of those in your family and want to introduce it to them. Was anyone else amazed by the reveal of Valentine and Vilder's relationship? I'm not gonna ruin it for any of you guys in case you haven't fully read it yet, but when that part came around, I was shocked. And then the turnaround from it. They were like two totally different sets of people, which just goes to show you the complexity of human relationships. Like something can go from positive to negative to positive again, and it doesn't erase what happened in the past. Like there's always that deep-seated thing inside, and it can bounce around and you can have these different relationships with people, but it can change so drastically. But just humans are crazy. One of the biggest themes in this book is loyalty. And to be honest, you can't really have a book about a dog and not talk about loyalty, right? But the fact that Tomorrow waited for over 200 years for Valentine to come back for him, that is like next level kind of loyalty. To be honest, I don't think I could have waited that long. Like I wouldn't lose any of that loyalty, but I'm such an activator that I'd have to go and try to find them. Like, even if I was in a place as beautiful as Venice, I don't think I could wait for that long. I would get antsy and I'd have to go and try to find them. Are you guys the same, or what do you think? The author very clearly placed his own opinions about like social issues and things like war and family, and even his thoughts on eating meat. He put them in the book. It was super clear and it was super obvious. And to be honest, I kind of like that, because I feel like a lot of authors don't put their own personal opinions about things because they want the characters to seem relatable. But I like that the author went for it in this. He took his opinions and he just ran with it. I thought it was bold and I loved it. This book really made me think of the mortality of dogs. So the fact that we as humans can have so many dogs in our lives, because they oftentimes will only live to 10 or 15 years old. So we can have a ton of them in our lives. And in this book, it was the opposite. So Tomorrow was the one who kept on living, and the humans that he was with would die or disappear. And it kind of made me really sad thinking about that. So knowing this, how can we not try to make our dogs' lives as full and as big and vibrant as we possibly can when they're here? Okay, so that's my thoughts on the book in general, but some questions that were in the back of the book from the author, I want to talk about those right now. So whether you've read the book or not, I would love for you to answer them. I'm going to answer them here, but if you guys want to answer them in the comment section, that would be really fun, and we can kind of compare our answers. If you could pick any dog breed to be your companion forever, what would it be? This one is so tough for me. So I'm a big fan of mixed breeds, but for the sake of answering this question, I'm going to pick a breed. But if it were in reality, I would pick something that is mixed. But I would definitely pick a male dog. I do love females, but I don't know, there's just something about a male dog, having a dog of the opposite sex. I don't know, there's just something about it for them to be your companion. I love male dogs. So I'd pick a male dog. Honestly, I think I would go with a Staffordshire Terrier. The reason being is they're so fiercely loyal, so I'd never be without cuddles. I'd have the most cuddly dog in the world. Also, they're big enough to be able to do a whole bunch of different activities, but some of them are small enough that I could still pick them up if I had to. I do like the fact that some people can see them as a kind of intimidating dog, so if I'm living forever and I'm traveling around the world on my own and going to different places, I want a dog that people are gonna look at and maybe not approach right away, but a dog that's also smart enough that if I train him to back down, he will. What would you guys pick? Could you wait for someone that you love for over 200 years? If you could. I kind of answered this before. Well, I would love to be able to say that I could. I'm an impatient person and I don't think I could wait for that long. I think I would sit there and I would start by waiting, and then I'd want to go out and try to find them, which would probably realistically make it longer that I would actually find them, but that's just me. Is immortality a burden or a privilege? Oh, that's a really good question. I think it's a little bit of both, but I'm gonna say it's more of a burden than it is a privilege. On the one hand, it's a privilege because think of all of the things you could accomplish. You could help the world in so many different ways if you didn't die, if you just had more time. But on the other hand, everyone that you know and love is going to pass away, and just the thought of being alone would be devastating for me. And I totally understand why Valentine turned Tomorrow into an immortal, because he wanted that companionship. Can you imagine being alone and knowing you're gonna live forever? It would be awful. I also think that knowing we have a certain time that we're going to expire, we fill the days that we have as much as we can. And you can totally see that in Wilder in this book, because the second that he became mortal, it's all of a sudden he had like a new look on life. He was reading books, he was like renovating his house, he was going for walks and doing all of these other things, and he didn't have that before. And so I think that we all need to, I mean, not know exactly when you're gonna die, but have an idea so that you can fill your days and not waste them. You know? Why do you think the relationship between dogs and humans can be so special? I think it is such a special relationship. And honestly, I think it has to do with trust. Dogs trust humans 110%, even though we show them time and time again that we are not trustworthy. And when I say we, I don't mean like us in particular, I mean the human race. Like, think of all of the different times throughout history in different places, just the horrible things that humans do to dogs. Yet they still trust us overall. And we humans can't help but respond to that. I definitely think that we have a lot to learn from dogs. for sure. If you could go back to any time and place in history, where would you go? Oh, this is a really, really good question. Depends. Am I exactly as I am right now? Like, am I a woman in her 20-somethings going back to that time, or can I choose if I'm a woman or a man and any age? So if I'm a man, I think I would go back to the colonization of the New World, but I don't mean like right in the beginning of it, because I think that would be very dangerous and I don't know how well I'd hold up in that. But when you know, towns and things like that were being set up, and I think that I would do that because it would be so exciting to go to a new place and start a whole new life, and be a part of something like that, a part of setting up a town and like really changing something, and exploring. I just think it'd be really exciting. So if I was a man, then that's where I would go. But as a woman, to be honest, now is probably the best time throughout any of history to be a woman, because women have had the short end of the stick for most of history, I would say. And there's not a lot of time periods that I would want to be a woman in, if I'm being honest. But if I have to pick, you're making me pick, I'm gonna pick Renaissance Europe. And the reason being, there was a lot of really exciting stuff that was happening at the time, like all of the art and the writers and the architecture and all of that stuff. There was just so many new exciting things coming out of that time period, and I think it would just be really interesting. And the people that you would meet on a daily basis would just be really interesting, I think. So that's the time period I think that I would go to. Okay, and the last question is, what is next for Valentine and tomorrow? Will they live in peace with Anna, or will they go back to the battlefield? I would love to say that they go back and have a really lovely life with Anna, because she seems super nice, but to be honest, I feel like they're going to go back to the battlefield, definitely. If there was another book, we would see them in World War I, we would see them in World War II, like, no question. And the reason being is that we as humans tend to fall into patterns. And that's a pattern that Valentine has fallen into for like hundreds of years, and I feel like even if he were to be with Anna for a short period of time, I don't think he would make her immortal. After everything that happened with Wilder, I think that he would maybe enjoy her company for a time, and then he would end up going back to a battlefield. And of course, Tomorrow's going to follow him, because Tomorrow is going to follow him until the end. Until the end, they're going to be together. So yeah, I think that they're gonna cycle through it again, and they'll end up going to the battlefields for sure. Okay, and that's really all that I wanted to talk about in today's book club meeting. Let me know what you guys thought of the book in the comments, if you read it, and if you didn't read it but are interested in reading it, then also let me know. Like, if you watch this and you're like, oh, that looks kind of cool, I'm into that, then let me know. For next month, so we're actually going to be taking a month off because of everything that's happening in the world with Black Lives Matter. I think that there's just more important things for us to be researching and putting our energy and time into. I know that that's what I'm going to be doing. I've ordered a few books on the history, especially in the United States, regarding all of that stuff. So we're taking a little bit of a break. So next month's book I have right here, it's called The Lost History of the Canine Race by Mary Elizabeth Thurston. I'm gonna link it below for you guys, but essentially it goes through humans and dogs together since the beginning of our history together. So it's gonna be really, really interesting. So again, if you're into history, this is a good one. I'm gonna be linking it below for you guys, but we're also not gonna be talking about this until the end of July. So gives lots of time to order it. Thank you guys for joining me on today's video, and I will see you guys next time. Make sure that you subscribe and follow me on Instagram, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.